In the mid-2000s, Natalie Gulbis busted onto the golf scene and quickly established herself as a sex symbol for ladies golf. After capping off some good years of play with a win, it seemed her game was starting to match the hype. However, after that initial triumph, it has not been the same case since. Greetings y'all, it's your knock Peter Mata, and today we're going to talk about what happened to Natalie Gulbis. Daughter of John and Barbara Gulbis, Natalie was born and raised in Sacramento, California. With her family being avid golfers, Natalie naturally took interest in golf early on. Starting at the wee old age of 4, she rapidly developed her game as she won her first tournament by the age of 7, and she was already breaking par by the age of 10. When she got to the age of 14, she played in her first LPGA Tour event at the 1997 Longs Drugs Challenge. At that time, she was the youngest player ever to qualify for an LPGA event. That same year, she won the California Women's Amateur, and in terms of high school golf, since her Granite Bay High School didn't have a girls' golf team, she played on the boys' team instead and was actually the best player on the team. Graduating high school at 16, she parlayed this early success by accepting a golf scholarship at the University of Arizona. There, she joined future LPGA star Lorena Ochoa and made the most of it. By the end of the year, Natalie had racked up first team All Pac-10 and first team All-American honors. With tremendous success in that single collegiate year, Natalie felt compelled to give professional golf a go. Thus, she left Arizona and signed up for LPGA Q School in the fall of 2001. And this proved to be a great decision, as she was able to make it all the way through and earn her 2002 LPGA Tour card based off a third place finish in the final tournament stage. And with that, she established a home in Las Vegas and began to work more closely with swing coach Butch Harmon, who she had seen since she was 15. From there, they continued to try to polish up her unique swing. In her first year on tour in 2002, Natalie had a solid rookie campaign with 3 top 10s and relatively consistent play all year. With that play, she actually ended up finishing second in the Rookie of the Year race. And while Natalie followed this strong rookie campaign with a couple of mediocre seasons in 03 and 04, where she only recorded a couple top 10s, these early years had many people taking notice of her. Obviously, a lot of it had to do with her dazzling looks, along with her bright personality. And because of that, Natalie attracted many new fans and quickly became one of the young stars that the tour was promoting. In addition, this opened up a number of opportunities not only in golf, but also in other ventures. Example being, she signed endorsement deals with a variety of different companies, she was signed up to do acting lessons for commercials and shows, and she even at one point had her own reality TV show. But I suppose the most controversial was her modeling stints, where on a few occasions she was featured in calendar shoots wearing only a bikini. Apparently these shoots proved too risque for the USGA, as they actually barred her calendars from being sold at the 2004 US Women's Open. Now many actually did side against the USGA on this, as they criticized the barring as an overreaction. But either way, as you can see, Natalie was getting a lot of attention. And while Natalie embraced it all and was comfortable with all the attention being for her looks, there were some critics who didn't particularly like that she got all this attention without actually winning. Many of course compared Natalie to tennis star Anna Kournikova. So with that, Natalie sought to silence those critics by showing more results on the course. And judging by her finishes starting in 2005, it was clear her golf game was starting to mature. In that year, she had her best season in terms of money and consistency. Her 12 top 10s contributed to her raking in just over $1 million in earnings, which was good enough for 6 on the money list. Included in those top 10s were 3 consecutive top 10s in majors, the best finish being a tied 4th at the US Women's Open, where she finished just 3 shots behind the eventual winner Birdie Kim. Now, she didn't record a victory that season, but her nice results did secure a spot in her first Solheim Cup, where she represented the US team. At the event, she played beautifully, as her 3-1-1 record contributed greatly to the US victory over the Europeans. With this good season, hype continued to grow, and Natalie continued her busy life outside golf. She appeared in video games, she wrote monthly columns, and she kept picking up more endorsement deals. Not to mention her love life was a hot topic of interest for many, as she was rumored to be dating Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger at the time. Unfortunately, in 2006, Natalie's on-the-course results still couldn't quite match her off-the-course business. Now, she wasn't terrible. In fact, she actually had a decent season with 7 top 10s, which did include a second place finish where she lost in a playoff. It also included tied third at the now A&A Inspiration, where she was only one shot shy of the playoff. This finish also marked her 4th consecutive top 10 in the major. So like I said, it wasn't a terrible season. Natalie continued to show she was talented and capable of competing. However, the criticism for the lack of a win did still linger, and in fact it only grew with these close calls. In 2007, this finally changed though, but it didn't come without complications, as Natalie was battling a back injury early in that year. The injury was so severe that she actually had to take a month off to let it heal. This proved to be a bit of a blessing in disguise though, as it forced her to make some adjustments to her swing, and those adjustments proved to be key for a good play heading into the summer. This is where we reached that year's Avion Masters, where Natalie finally broke through. Starting the final round there 4 shots back, Natalie made her move with 3 front 9 birdies and ended up finishing with the clubhouse lead at -4. Jiang Zhang tied Natalie with a birdie on the 72nd hole, and the two were headed to a sudden death playoff. In that playoff on the par 5 18th, Natalie laid the pressure on by hitting her second shot onto the green. After Zhang couldn't up and down for birdie, all Natalie had to do was knock this 1-footer in for her first win. And with that, she finally silenced some of those who criticized her for not being a winner. As many predicted, this victory firmly established Natalie as a star on the tour, and of course just increased the hype for her future. The thought was that this would be the first of many wins to come. However, as we've seen from the results since then, that has not been the case. Now, because of her good play in 2007, she did once again qualify for the US Solheim Cup team. She only had a 1-2-0 record at the event, but it did indeed contribute to the US capturing the cup again. The next few years though, did not prove to be as fruitful as these early years for Natalie. Now I do have to say her celebrity status was still notably high. She still did all the off-course things that she did before, i.e. endorsement deals, commercials, modeling, and she was even in more high-profile shows. For instance, Natalie had guest appearances on The Price is Right and CSI, and she was also a contestant for the 2nd season of Celebrity Apprentice in 2009.
Okay, look, I have to go with something. Natalie, you weren't an effective fundraiser. And ultimately, you picked the wrong jewelry. So, Natalie, you're fired. Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
So Natalie was keeping busy, and she still had the star power that attracted all sorts of new fans. However, her on-the-course game did begin to noticeably drop off around this time, so I guess this would be a good time to start answering that title question of what exactly happened to Natalie Gulbis. Well, let's start with the results from those seasons after her first win. Natalie's 2008 and 2009 campaigns weren't particularly bad. In fact, her play was consistent enough to earn her a spot on the 2009 US Solheim Cup team, where her 1-1-1 record again contributed to a US win in that event. But overall, her finishes weren't as high, and she wasn't in contention as often. In those seasons, she only racked up 3 top 10s, with her highest finish being a tied 7th. And these types of seasons would be a running theme for Natalie in the years to follow. From 2010 through 2013, Natalie's highest finish was tied 4th, and she recorded just 4 top 10s in that time span. Granted, a couple of those finishes were in majors, so she could still get her game up for the big events and compete. However, she could never quite find the consistency she had in her peak seasons. And a big part of that had to do with injuries. As I mentioned earlier regarding her 2007 winning season, Natalie even then was dealing with back injuries. And that became a constant bother for her throughout the rest of her career. In 2008, in order to treat some bulging disc in her back, she actually had to undergo her first surgery on it. And according to her, it was not a success. As she said, quote, "I struggled with getting re-injured. I had to get cortisone shots. I was constantly in ice baths or getting physical therapy. I spent more time in physical therapy than practicing." So obviously, this affected Natalie's game as she was playing hurt through most of this time. And even more so, it also affected her quality of life. Much like we heard about Tiger's troubles, Natalie also struggled to do the simplest things. For instance, she couldn't walk up the stairs or sit in a car without feeling pain. It even got so bad that she and Butch actually sat down to discuss a retirement plan all the way back in 2010. However, before they moved forward with it, Natalie heard about how Peter Jacobsen had a similar surgery that worked for him. So after considering her options, she decided to at least give it a try. Thus, in 2010, she got the procedure done at Phoenix's Laser Spine Institute, and it did indeed prove to be a success. Originally, the surgery was done just to relieve Natalie of her pain, let alone to get her back to professional golf. However, it did that and more, as Natalie said, quote, "I had the surgery and I felt no pain 2 weeks later. A month later, I played on tour. Recovery was easy. We just moved forward from there." So while the results during those following seasons weren't remarkable as I mentioned earlier, it was good to see that Natalie at least could play a full and healthy schedule. Now, she did have a bit of a scary bout with malaria in early 2013, but she was eventually able to recover from it successfully and come back to play shortly after healing up. Her off-the-course activity during this time was still going strong though. She still held many endorsement deals, probably more so than any other LPGA Tour player, and she even successfully built some companies of her own. Also in this time in 2013, Natalie finally settled down and got married to former Yale quarterback Josh Rottermel. Unfortunately, while they've tried, the couple hasn't been able to welcome any children just yet. As far as Natalie's playing career since 2014, it has not been too stellar. She tried a less is more approach where she played a lot less tournaments in hopes of finding more quality results. But unfortunately, this approach hasn't quite worked for her, as she's yet to record a single top 10 in this time span. Again, a lot of it did stem from injury troubles, as Natalie regrettably re-injured her back after hitting an awkward bunker shot at the 2017 ShopRite Classic. This resulted in her having to get her third discectomy surgery on her back, and obviously with this re-injuring, it caused Natalie to once again consider retirement from golf. Naturally, as a competitor and athlete, Natalie still felt she could play and win, and she even drew inspiration from Tiger when he successfully returned from all his back injuries. However, despite going back and forth on it several times, she ultimately announced in a letter in early 2020 that she would be retiring at the end of the season. Now obviously with COVID-19 throwing a big wrench into many things, Natalie has actually pushed her final season to 2021, as she felt it wouldn't have been right to end it without the fans that have supported her throughout her career. Hence why some of you might have saw her compete at this year's Bank of Hope LPGA match play. Of course, when Natalie does ultimately finish out her playing days as an LPGA golfer, she'll have many things outside of golf to fall back on. As has been repeatedly mentioned, she has positioned herself as a star in many ventures. In terms of things she's been involved in the past 5 years, it includes politics. She was in fact a speaker at the 2016 Republican National Convention, and she was also appointed by President Trump to serve as a member of his Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition during his term. With this experience and her business experience dealing with sponsors over the years, some even speculated that she would run for Congress. However, that speculation has yet to bear any fruit. So anyways, that's pretty much what Natalie has been up to, and we're currently in her last year as a competitive golfer. Obviously, while there are probably many that have criticized her for being overrated, overhyped, or someone who doesn't concentrate on their craft more, I personally think Natalie has made the most out of her talent and has had a great career. And I get it that many say the tour and sponsors should hype more of the players that produce rather than players like Natalie. However, to me, there's always a place for players that move the needle and who are good ambassadors of the game, and by all accounts, Natalie does both despite not winning a lot. Obviously, many are mostly attracted because of her looks, but I think an underrated skill is her ability to connect and relate with fans, fellow tour players, and just people in general. Here's what Stacey Lewis said about Natalie last year. Quote, "I just think with the fashion and modeling stuff, maybe some just didn't get to know the true Natalie, but those of us that did, she's an unbelievable person." So like I said, Natalie by all accounts is the type of player you would want to promote. So I don't blame the tour, sponsors, or Natalie for embracing the hype at all. Now I do agree that she could have won a bit more, but I don't think it would have been that much more. For one, I think her swing and body type contributed to her back troubles, and while she had Butch Harmon as a coach, there's really not much more they could have done with her motion. I think they got her swing to the best they could, and as far as the injuries go, it's just tough in general to deal with that as a player, so all that certainly contributed to her lack of wins. Also, I think what needs to be considered is the great competition during her peak playing days. I mean, shoot, during that time you still had Annika Sorenstam and Kari Webb doing their thing, and you had Natalie's former teammate Lorena Ochoa coming into her own. So at the end of the day, yes, Natalie probably could have won more, but there's a lot of factors that contributed to her only getting that lone victory. And even still, it doesn't take away from her good career in golf that led to a great career outside of it. And look, she understands the criticism too, and she doesn't at all regret the decisions she's made over her career. Here's what she stated in her retirement letter last year. Quote, "I can hear the critics now. I was caught up in my photo shoots, my TV show, and marketing deals. Golf was not a priority. If that was the case, I allocated my time poorly. If I had to estimate, I likely spent 90% of my time doing something that earned me 10% of my income, that being playing on the LPGA Tour, and 10% of my time doing something that earned me 90% of my income, that being business deals. But I don't regret those decisions for 1 second. It wasn't about the money, it was always about the chance to compete against the best in the world. It still is." And it also should be stated that she is indeed a winner, so while many compare to Anna Kournikova in tennis, they really should take into account that Natalie has won, and that's something no one can ever take away from her. So yeah, those were some of my and others' thoughts on Natalie. I wish her well, and who knows what more she's got in store for the coming years. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and let me know your thoughts. What do you think happened to Natalie Gulbis? Thanks again for watching, y'all, and as always, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Your words mean something to me.
When Grips called you to be here too, huh, pal?
Yeah, they said they had their next hot thing for us to check out.
I heard it's all about technology meeting style.
Dazzling and unique. Well, that makes sense. Since when Grips brought us on their team, they obviously only want to work with the best.
That's right, guys.
Win Grips just got a whole lot better.
Win the best grips in golf where technology meets style.
Come on, let's go play 18.
Oh, we can let it out now, JD.